There's heaps of decent base locations in Vane. Places on islands, places underground, places really far above ground, small places, big places, cool places, and creepy places. But which base locations are the best in the game? Well, in this video I put together a tier list and rank each base location in a way that I'm sure will be totally agreeable by all of us, as nobody ever disagrees with a tier list, right? Right? Let's get into it. First things first, let's talk a little about the criteria. It's impossible to fit all locations into a video like this whilst keeping it engaging and ensuring that it's not longer than The Lord of the Rings, so I've handpicked some, 14, of what I feel are the most notable base locations to work through, as well as some more generic options included within that. And for anyone watching further into the future, this is the map area as of the time of recording, which I'm working from. The criteria I'm judging them against is primarily with solo play in mind. How easy the base is to fortify, how rewarding it is to fortify, how well connected it is to key looting spots, how complete as a location it is, whether it's a decent enough size for all crafting and farming needs, is easy to escape from, and also the perhaps less quantifiable category, the vibe. Does it feel cool? Does it feel different? Or does it feel a bit meh? Our categories today are S, which is effectively God tier, can't be beaten. A, which is very good, hard to beat. B, which is decent but could be better. Meh, which is, well, as it says, uninspiring, maybe a touch on the dull side. And finally, our Forget It tier, where it's not a great base location, there's much better out there, but if you're really desperate, then sure. Right, with all of the preamble out of the way, let's get stuck in, starting off with a generic one. Gas stations. Gas stations. Well, I mean, they're great for fuel, for food, for drink. Typically, they have a walk-in freezer for keeping food good for longer. Many have generators already installed on their roofs. The bad bits, though, are, I mean, they're quite small. They're not typically inspiring, not awfully easy to fortify, and would take a lot of resources to wall around them, for example. So for me, garages, well, we've got a lot to get through, and garages, gas stations, whatever we want to call them, they're going to sit in meh for me. Next up, and our first foray into a specific location, let's talk Outpost Alpha. Now, Outpost Alpha is fairly centrally located, albeit a little in the sticks. It's relatively close to Lion Mountain and a relatively short drive to Dannemora that knocks it higher in my estimations. It has a generator, and unlike many, if not all of the locations we're looking at today, it has its own junction box which is hooked up to the generator, meaning that the tall floodlights work at night from the generator. It also is surrounded by barbed wire fencing, which, whilst on default settings zombies will be able to climb over, they'll have damage inflicted on them as a result. The downsides for me for Outpost Alpha are that you'll have to get used to bunking in a tent, and there's not much in terms of indoor space. So with the current lack of being able to build in Vane at the time of recording, this marks it down in my book. It also means that should you wish to fortify it, other than building walls 2 panels high around it, you're pretty limited. So for me, Outpost Alpha is B tier. Now let's talk about some of the new additions as part of the Loon Lake map area. Hunting stands. Now where are my hunting stands? There they are. Now these are found in some of the rural areas of Loon Lake and typically are in wooded areas. They're really nicely put together buildings with one ladder up to a platform and then a single box room with a glass pane most of the way around. For a one-night stopover, these work well, or if you're going from your main base to spend a couple of nights hunting, these could work. For anything more than that, though, it's going to be a big struggle. Yes, it may be safe from zombies as they can't climb ladders, but you can't fit a crafting table in here, and whilst you could wall off and fortify an area beneath them, the general lack of easy vehicle access would make these a challenge for a permanent long-running base. These are our first entrant into our Forget It tier for me. Now, from a tiny base possibility to, well, the opposite end of the spectrum. A huge expanse of space in rural dollar Dannemora. Now, on first look, you'd be right in thinking that this would be difficult to make into a home. However, I challenged that theory, as this is a location that made it into my 3 underused base locations video. Watch that by clicking at the top right. In reality, the rural dollar store in Dannemora, whilst it is huge, has a lot going for it. Its close proximity to Dannemora being one, it also being a short drive away from Saranac, and as the map develops, it's likely to become a touch more central in its location. In terms of the space you get, there's a garage with shutter door, a kitchen already in place, and a huge amount of space internally to do what you'd like with. There's also a generator on the roof, so you can enjoy electricity from day one. It can, of course, have its windows and doors fortified, but should you wish to go a step further, it would need double height fortified fencing around its perimeter, which would be pretty resource heavy. That said, though, I personally think turning something like this into a base location could be incredibly rewarding, and, as a hoarder, I could use the space. It passes the vibe test too. This is our first entrant into A tier for me. Next up, and another generic option, but one I definitely think is worth talking about, is the A-frames. I love these visually. They're so cool to explore with their different layouts and their tighter, well-designed interiors. For longer-term base play, I could see myself running into a few storage-related issues given my playstyle, and I think they're not perhaps built with the number of different crafting workbenches in mind. So for long-term playthroughs and a permanent base location, I think they'd be tight. Not as tight as the hunting stands, though, and they're relatively easy to fortify, at least, with their doors and windows being fortifiable. Again, for more than that, you're looking at a perimeter wall. They typically have a couple of entrances and exits, and, on the vibes, I'm happy and willing to overlook the sizing to some degree, but some choices around storage and hoarding would have to be made. A generic A-frame sits in meh for me. I want them to be higher, but there's just too much compromise. But there's a couple of more specific ones I'll be talking about later that may be graded differently. Next up, let's cast away to something totally different, our own private island, Moffitt Island. This location on Upper Chateauguay Lake sounds absolutely idyllic. Accessible only by boat or an incredibly athletic swimmer most of the year, with winter being the exception when you can drive on the frozen lake, this location is as isolated as it gets, sat in the middle of a freaking lake, for God's sake. On paper, it sounds ideal for the apocalypse, and it really did put my self-sustainable base challenge to the test. Watch that at the top right. But unfortunately, with the current lack of boats in-game and its off-to-the-side location, which I'm sure will become more central in time, this is going to struggle to fire up the rankings. Had it had a larger house on the island where you could store loads of looted items from winter looting trips, it may have been elevated. But unfortunately, as it stands, it's forget it. Now, we've talked about a cabin on an island. Let's talk about cabins in general. These are found all over the map, typically in more rural areas, and are usually made up of 1, 2, or in some instances 3 rooms. Typically, though, they're a fairly open-plan kitchen, living, dining, bedroom, and a smaller bathroom with a fuse box in it, which feels brave. There are a couple of interesting cabins on the map, including this one in the Hunter's Lab, and they're, again, great places for shorter-term stays. I think, though, if you're looking to make somewhere a permanent base, these are a struggle. Typically, there's only one door, so a mistimed hoard could easily be fatal, and they don't have stacks of space for crafting tables. These are meh tier for me. If you're hopping from one cabin to the next, they're great, but they don't make great permanent bases in my view. Next up, and well, one of the OGs in terms of base locations. It's Calico Farm. Situated close to Saranac and within a short drive's range to Redford in Russia, Calico Farm is nicely located potential basing spot with a large house and a basement, a big barn, a double garaged warehouse, and its own well, all ready for you to use. The main house can, of course, have its windows and doors fortified, and there are a couple of ways in and out of it too. There's plenty of space for crafting tables, and loads of outside space for generators, wind turbines, and or solar panels too. A perimeter wall would be a resource-heavy quest to complete, but may not be entirely necessary given the multiple exits, the roof that you can climb up to on the warehouse to temporarily escape any undead friends, and Calico Farm did a wonderful job of housing Bosun in the first series of my Vane Let's Play. With a water tower located a short drive or a reasonable walk to the north, this is a really solid base location for experienced and newer players alike. In terms of vibes, it doesn't set my heart racing, and it doesn't feel like a particularly exciting place to call home, and maybe that's why it's not quite an S tier for me, but that could be harsh. It definitely deserves at least an A tier, and that is where it sits for me personally. Next up, WPLT TV Weather Station. A pretty unique base location, I think, as whilst there are a couple of radio stations with masts on the map, there isn't any others with the space the weather station has, nor do they have the video wall that the WPLT weather station has either. All the doors and windows can be fortified, however there is only one way in and one way out, which does mean this could be a lethal place to be in the event that a horde is triggered. Should you get a bite though, there's a radio mast, so you can treat your infection. It doesn't have a perimeter wall, but internally there's plenty of space for crafting stations, and whilst it isn't a place you could move into instantly and have everything you need, it would be a really rewarding place in my view to fortify and make into a home. The lack of more than one entrance and exit, and the amount of work needed to make it into a base, drop it to a B for me, but it is a very respectable and well-deserved B tier in my view. Next up is one of the largest base locations I'll cover in this video. Well, it's actually not even close. It's definitely the largest base location I'll cover in this video. It's Mill number 3. This is another location that is very well regarded in the community and is unique in Vane. It goes over multiple floors and multiple buildings. It has its own generator, 2 to be precise, 1 in each of the main buildings, and also hosts an industrial forge on location. In addition to all of this good stuff, there's also access to the mines directly beneath it, including one which will require you to wear an oxygen tank, as it, Dead Air Depths, has limited oxygen and can kill your character if you stay down there for too long without the right equipment. It is huge, it's sprawling, it has a ton of unique characteristics, its own mines, its own forge, its own elevator or lift, 2 generators, and loads of space. I'm so conflicted with this one because on one hand, it's far too large for a solo base in my view, and it would require so much work to get it to the point of being fortified, organized, and base-like. But as much as I think that's a negative, I also see that as a positive too. It would be super rewarding to do. Maybe I've hoodwinked myself, and I am second-guessing myself, but I think I'm going to do it. S tier. Mill number 3 is going in S tier. Our first entrant into S tier, but will it be the last? Next up, Firewatch Towers. Now, there's a number of these to be found around the map, predominantly in mountainous or hilly regions, and they're all the same shape, size, and layout for the most part. They have a water tank, which contains 10,000 litres of fresh drinkable water. They also have a gas-powered generator on hand for any electrical needs too. Additionally, they have a bed, a small kitchen, and usually a wood-fired stove for cooking and heating as well, and a viewfinder in the middle of the room where you can have any local points of interest added to your map the first time you use one. These are a really cool location to be. They're accessed by a long stairway, and as they're remote and typically not bothered by large volumes of zombies, unless a horde is triggered, they can be fortified, but only have one way in or out. So again, in a horde scenario, this is less than ideal. You can, of course, fortify the base of the tower, but by using fencing. Again, going too high to avoid climbing zombies, and this would then increase the space you have for crafting benches and the like. Ultimately, for me, these work well for brief stopovers of a couple of nights. But I wouldn't personally want to be there for much longer or to use one as a permanent base. This one may not go down well, but they fall into the meh category for me. I don't feel particularly enamored by just building a wall around the base, and there's not many options to make them feel really cozy or base-like. Or, Yeah, I think I'm going to leave them there. I think they are going to be in meh tier for me. Next up, and I'm bunching these two up for reasons that'll hopefully become clear as I go through. Horsehead Point and Westwood Getaway. Both of them are A-frames, both situated in isolated spots. Westwood Getaway sat on its own private island with a dock, and Horsehead Point sat on a jetty connected by a single road, again with its own private docks. Both are lovely little A-frames with slightly different interior layouts, and Westwood Point also has farming plots pre-existing, meaning that really it is a move in and get started location, but both are so similar to one another it felt hard to separate them, and ultimately in the prioritization of time, it felt more natural to talk about them and rank them together as one. I said previously that I love the design of the A-frames, but their tightly packed nature makes longer-term basing more of a challenge. However, this for me is mitigated somewhat by putting fences and a gate across the bridge for Westwood, or the road for Horsehead Point, thus giving you more of a secure outdoor space for things like crafting benches for most of the year round. Yes, in the winter, when the lakes freeze and the zombies want to slip and slide over, this will require some more thought, but for most of the year, these two locations are, for me, the most desirable A-frames currently in the game. For that reason, their location and the vibes of having well-situated, beautifully designed A-frames in touching distance of key looting areas in Loon Lake, these for me make it into B tier. Next up, a place I'm calling home in my current Let's Play series, click to watch at the top right, Cherry Hill Airpark. Now, this location is, in my opinion, incredible. It's located to the east of Loon Lake, closer to Redford, which means it's one of the best located new base locations introduced as part of the Loon Lake area in my view. It's right on the border of the old map and the newer map area, and has easy road routes north to Lion Mountain, and is a stone's throw from Redford itself. It has a large house situated at the end of a fully fenced off runway, fencing which does have barbed wire, so would inflict damage to any climbing Zeds, and in addition to the large house with its own basement, it has a double garage for extra vehicle or hoarding storage, and another large garage for more vehicle and hoarding storage too. And sat beside that, with a door in the basement presumably set to lead to it once it's in the game, there's a bunker entrance. Yes, there's no accessible bunker at this point, but that is a pretty sick thing to have on your doorstep. The house itself has a couple of entrances and exits, so in a horde event, there's more than one exit point, and should you wish to get in a vehicle to drive away from a horde, you can just hot foot it down the runway. Yes, there isn't a mine like mill number 3 has, but there's also a hell of a lot less work to do to turn this into a base. And if you take the time to add some fortified walls with a large gate and fortify the house itself, it's a spectacularly solid spot in my view. This makes it into S tier. Next up, and the last one that we're covering for the video, and I'm sure this is one that a few folks may well have been waiting for my determination on, Werrenrath Island. Werrenrath Island is located on the east side of Chasey Lake, in touching distance of Dannemora. This does mean, given its location, it is a bit of a longer drive to other areas of the map, with Lion Mountain being the next closest, then Saranac, then Redford, and then Loon Lake being a fair drive away. Werrenrath Island is, and I know this is a shock, its own island, with only one way on and one way off via the connecting bridge, unless of course it's winter and the lake's frozen over. Werrenrath Island has a large house with a unique layout when compared to some of the similar sized homes on the map. And additionally, it has another sort of pool house or cabin or chalet on site too. It also has its own dock, something which I'm sure will be well used when boats are in the game, and it benefits from not just farming plots, but also a greenhouse too. It has been dubbed Noob Island by some in the community, but it is a complete self-starter location that is only really some power generation away from it being a complete base location. But, and there is a but, I have gone back and forth in my mind so many times about what I think this should be ranked as. On paper, with its farming plots, its island location, its multiple entrances and exits, its ease to fortify, it absolutely is an S. On paper, it's really clear cut. And for me, it is a big but. I can't give it an S. It just doesn't feel like it belongs in the S tier. Mill number 3 is an incredible location, but needs work, and in doing that work, you're rewarded with a proper base location you've made. Cherry Hill Airpark makes it into S because it's so unique with its own runway, a bunker next to it, and work to do in terms of fortification and farming and making the most of it. Werrenrath Island, for me, is a gem. It's a diamond. But that's its problem in my mind. I don't want a diamond personally in these games. I want a base I need to work on a little bit to make into a base. So given the fact that I don't feel I'd be feeling rewarded by basing here, and ultimately, yes, I think it is probably just the vibe check, I'm dropping it. It's an A for me. Right, that is my tier list. 14 of the main base locations tier listed. I'm still, in my mind, wanting to wiggle some around, but I'm going to stay strong. In Forget It, we have the hunting stands and Moffitt Island. In Meh, we have the gas stations, A-frames, cabins, and firewatch towers. In B, we have Outpost Alpha, WLPT TV station, and both Horsehead Point and Westwood Getaway. In A, we have the Rural Dollar in Dannemora, Calico Farm, and Werrenrath Island. And finally, my 2 S-tier bases from this list, Mill number 3 and Cherry Hill Airpark. I can't wait to read your comments telling me how wrong I am, I think, or which bases I should have included, and also to see what your ranking for these bases are. There's a link in the description should you wish to have a go yourself, and you can send me them on my Discord server. Link to join that in the description too. I'll catch you on Monday for my Let's Play and on Wednesday for another apocalyptic video. Catch you later.